Hey, this is Blough. It's time for another 5x5, and if you've been watching the news at all, you're aware that ransomware is rampant. It's just out of control. There's been a fairly large hospital that had to pay about a $17,000 ransom to get their data back. And this problem of machines getting infected and then them encoding your sensitive data, your protected and important information, and not giving it back to you unless you pay them a big fine or fee, that's pretty scary. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but in particular, I'll just talk really quickly about ransomware in general, because we've talked about that before, and I'm going to talk about Locky, which is a very specific type of ransomware that targets Microsoft Word documents, and that's something that's, I think, that we all are going to have to be really careful and be aware of. And so let's talk a little bit, first of all, about ransomware in general. Ransomware is just a malicious code. We used to call them viruses or various other programs that might be out there that would infect a computer. In these particular cases, though, instead of just infecting it for the fun of it or infecting it to slow down your computer, or used to be the big thing was to turn your computer into a spam bot and throw a bunch of spam all over the place. Now they attack your computer and they find all of your data, all of the stuff that's important to you, and they encrypt it with a very complex encryption algorithm that you can't break. And the only way you can get your data back is one of two things. One, hopefully you've got an excellent backup that was not online during the attack, so that we can restore from that backup. Or two, you pay them lots of money. In the case of the hospital, it ended up being about $17,000, and I think on average it's more like about $700 to get your data back. It's pretty scary, pretty intimidating. The fact that they could gain access to your computer is pretty frustrating in and of itself, but then that they can demand money for something that you own, that's just pretty roguish. So it's a general problem. It's been out for quite a few years now. Lots of different solutions to it. Strong antivirus, making sure that you've got patch management going on. Somebody is looking over all of that to make sure that it's being done correctly, and that you've got excellent backups that, again, are not physically attached at the time of the attack to your machine. Because if the backup device, say that you're backing it up to a jump drive or USB hard drive, and the attack happens while that device is plugged in, they'll just go in there and encrypt the backup as well. And so the backup is useless at that particular point. So we have to have something offline, preferably maybe like web hosted and isolated. But anyways, so those are the things you can do to protect yourself against it. But now we have a new variant of this. And so a lot of times what's happened in the past is that you'd get a really strange email, which seemed like it maybe came from the IRS or from Verizon or some other type of bill, and it would try to scare you into opening it. We've seen one example where somebody was sent a bill from Verizon for like $2,700, and this was just a user, just a consumer, and they saw that and they freaked out. What's my husband done? Oh, this is crazy. And they had to click on an attachment, and the attachment was invoice.doc.exe. So invoice.doc would indicate it's a Microsoft Word document. DOC or DOCX are the extensions for Word documents, but they snuck a .exe at the end of it, which made it an executable program so that it was actually able to run and do something, and then attempted to encrypt their computer to ransom their files back to them. We do a lot of restrictions related to executable programs. And so, for instance, in our managed accounts, if we see an email come through with an exe attached to it, we just strip it out and you never see it. So to get around people like me who are trying to keep people like you safe, what they've done now is they've found a way to infect the Microsoft Word document directly, the DOC or the DOCX file. And what they're doing now is they're sending an invoice.doc or .docx without that extension, so it's going to pass right through our filtering, go right to your desktop. Looks like an invoice. You double click on the Microsoft Word document, it probably is going to look like garbage, and then it's going to say something kind of strange, and say, we need to enable macros for you to be able to finish viewing this file. So let me just kind of stop right there for just a second, explain what macros are. Macros are a programming language inside of Microsoft Word and really all of Microsoft Office programs that allow you to do some really cool things like automation and make them do amazing things. Basically a little programming language for Microsoft Office. In fact, you can do some, you can almost write an entire software program inside of Excel and Word using these things. If you get a document, a bill from Verizon or the IRS or somebody that's trying to send you money from Nigeria, and it's got a macro attachment, here's your answer. 100% of the time. When it asks you to enable macros, no. Just no. Don't do it. Stop. Right then and there. You do not ever run a macro on something that you are not 100% sure is safe, because that is giving full access to your computer through that particular programming language. And there is some techniques to protect it. Antivirus and various other programs will try to look at that before it executes. But you got to remember that the very best antivirus program out there is only 65% effective. And so we need to make sure that we're getting past that particular problem. And the only way that we're going to do that is if we use some human engineering and some human fail-safe as well. And what you've got to do is you've got to learn that there are certain things that you can't do. In fact, what we tell people when we do training is that I want you to be suspicious. I want you to always think that somebody's out to get you, kind of productive paranoia, for lack of a better way of describing it. I don't want you to be terrified of using your computer, but I want you to always be cautious. And so if you get a file and you're not exactly sure where it came from or why you're getting it and it wants to run a macro, the answer is always no. We'll do our best on our side to strip out all of the bad stuff, but you can see that they're innovating as fast as we are innovating to try to protect you. They keep coming up with new strategies. So to protect yourself against this particular threat, never enable macros, never allow them to execute automatically. And if you don't know the document 100% for sure, you certainly will never trust that document. So that's a couple steps that you can do to protect yourself and making sure your computer doesn't get held hostage by the bad guys. This is Blough, and hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.